Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, all in crypto here. And today, as it's been a little while, we're going to be talking about Algorand. We're going to be asking and answering the question, is Algorand dead? And I'm going to be giving you my honest take. I'm not going to deliberately try to offend anybody. However, I think if you try and please everybody, you'll end up pleasing none. So I'm going to be brutally honest with Algorand and my thoughts on it from a fundamental point of view, from an investment point of view, from a point of view of what I'm seeing and what I think Algorand right now is suffering from. And I think one of the main things that Algorand is suffering from is a complete lack of interest from a ecosystem point of view, from a developer point of view, from a community point of view, from a price point of view. I really do think that there's a complete lack of interest in Algorand. And I think that this is unfair because Algorand is one of the most impressive layer one blockchains that exists in the crypto space. I mean, it is well and truly up there in terms of performance. And actually more and more so, it's becoming a easier developer experience. And I'm going to go to a clip of Silvio. I fished this clip out from a while ago, but he speaks about actually that the pivotal point for when technology actually gets recognized in the crypto space is when interoperability is a thing, and actually you get the chance to choose what blockchain you intend to use. And if we look, we've been covering lots of things in regards to Quant. Yesterday we looked at Chainlink CCIP. What Quant are trying to do is basically create an overledger system that allows institutions, or whoever it may be, institutions is kind of, they partner with the Bank of England, they partner with Santander, MasterCard, Barclays, a number of people. They're basically trying to facilitate institutions to coming into the crypto space. And this is the world that we're moving towards. The entire financial system is going to be operated on blockchain. And some of those blockchains will be public blockchains like Algorand, I believe. And if you look at CCIP, it essentially means that people can use the blockchain world eventually seamlessly. It only rolled out literally 2 days ago. And have a choice what platform they want to operate on. And Algorand actually, from a cost point of view, from a throughput point of view, from a security point of view, from a finality point of view, speed, TPS, makes a lot of sense and could become a choice if people have those choices, which interoperability is going to be a big part of. So we haven't lost hope on Algorand at all. I think I definitely prematurely bought it. Algorand, and we'll talk about the price at the end of the video, is a lot further behind than most other cryptocurrencies, certainly your bigger ones, lots of your smaller ones actually, in terms of where it's at in regards to price. However, Algorand is still something that I want to hold as an investment. We've got it at a relatively low price. It's the biggest loser in my portfolio. I have no shame in saying that by a long stretch. That's just the way it goes. You're never going to be able to perfectly time the bottom. We've done a fantastic job of calling bottoms, certainly this year, on many cryptocurrencies when many people were still expecting downside. Remember, we mitigated pretty much all of the damage that took place in 2022 from an investment point of view. But let's get into the video. Let's talk about Algorand and perhaps some of the things that I think it's suffering from. But I just first of all want to still reiterate my belief that Algorand is an amazing blockchain, and actually its best days are well and truly ahead of it. Not only do they already have institutional partners, you could argue actually it was not necessarily built specifically for institutions, but it can cater to them. It can do more transactions than MasterCard. It's very cheap, it's very fast. You've got block time, which was actually just recently, I think 3.4, 3.5 seconds block time. And I think Algorand, again, it is going to come into its own with interoperability. And I want to play this clip of Silvio Macali, who is a Turing Award winner, kind of the perfect man to be behind a blockchain project. This guy has created concepts that are used widely in the crypto space. I want to listen to him talk about what he's saying in regards to Algorand and the fact that we at Algorand try to develop the best blockchain there is. But what is going to be important is interoperability. And he doesn't mean necessarily them facilitating interoperability. He means that Algorand will shine when you don't just have to use one blockchain and you can have a choice of the blockchains, it all of a sudden becomes an obvious choice for institutions given the capabilities of the layer one. So we do not think Algorand is dead. We think it's far from it. We think it's one of the most impressive layer one blockchains that it is, and its best days are ahead of it. We'll talk about price. We'll talk about why I stopped DCAing into it. We've been DCAing from very, very low prices. We waited really until this year to start trickling back into it. We've still got some Algorand that we'd like to pick up at some point, but not until it shows us certain things from a price point of view. And I could talk about the whole investment side of things towards the end of the video. So let's play this clip of Silvio. I think he hits the nail on the head here. And then we'll talk about some problems that Algorand's suffering from. And then we'll sort of go through, we'll look at the DeFi space. They lost their biggest DeFi player, a number of things. I'm going to stop rambling, guys. Let's listen to this clip of Silvio.
We at Algorand try to develop the best blockchain there is. But in my opinion, what is going to be important is really interoperability. Because essentially we tell the world, come to my ecosystem. And then you say, well, yes, come, but to your own ecosystem. And then, it is a one big world which we want to live and love and operate. And nobody wants to see with suspicion, if I commit into a blockchain, I'm going to be stuck there forever. Which one should I choose? So the moment in which we really get serious about interoperability, so that you can choose the blockchain, but whatever you choose for your local operation, you can interoperate with the rest of the world. This is going to be, in my opinion, the inflection point from a technology point of view.
I think he hit the nail on the head there. I love that clip. I'm not sure if I've played it before. I might have reposted it on Twitter and spoke a little bit about this. But when you don't just have to choose one blockchain, and typically people will go, there's this kind of, laws of mass, if you will. Ethereum, why do people build on Ethereum? Well, it's got the most amount of users. Whereas if you could interoperate with Ethereum seamlessly, but use Algorand to do so, it's at a fraction of a cost. Algorand can compete with layer 2s on Ethereum in terms of cost, scalability, and a number of other things. And it's a layer 1. There's also, I'm sure there's side chains or not side chains, layer 2s that can come from Algorand and so on and so forth. But the game changer for Algorand is when the world is interoperable, the blockchain world is interoperable, and we see huge strides towards this. Certainly with the likes of Chainlink and what they're doing with CCIP, that could become a standard. In the same way that IP and a number of other standards apply to the internet now, and that kind of was responsible for bringing the internet together. This is where Algorand really comes into its own, because you've got to think, right? If you have the choice between these other blockchains that are, let's just look at actually the cost of Algorand here. This is the cost of a transaction fee on Algorand. It's exceptionally cheap. It has a 3.4 second block time. Right now, the current activity, again, one of the big problems I think Algorand is suffering from is a lack of community, a lack of interest from a developer side of things. We will try and be a part of helping this blockchain grow in that, and that's why we make videos on it. It's set as the green blockchain, the kind of carbon neutral. It becomes an obvious choice, but the problem is right now is people go... We interviewed Hugh Henry, and one thing he said to me that I hadn't really thought about, but it's so true, is bums on seats is a real thing. People walk past empty restaurants. Okay, and this is the real problem that I think Algorand's suffering with from the moment. But when, everything is interoperable and you have a choice, but you can still connect with where all the people are, where all the bums on seats are, Algorand all of a sudden becomes the place to be. This is absolutely, you only need to look into it. If you want a deep dive on Algorand, and we'll compare it, we should probably do this, comparing layer ones, I think we should do. Algorand is simply one of the superior blockchains out there from a number of points, finality, block time, transactions per second, transaction fees, and so on and so forth. And they're already partnered with institutions. We think, again, what Silvio's saying here in regards to interoperability is absolutely spot on and going to be a game changer for Algorand. I want to save some price analysis till the end of the video. This is still in the downtrend. I shouldn't have been touching this cryptocurrency and buying it, 20, 16, 14 cents, 13 cents. I broke a lot of my own rules there, even 11 cents. Because typically for me, I like to wait until I've seen some sort of a base form before I get into things, because you don't know that is a base until you've seen it form, and you end up having to have underwater bags. Now it's investment bag. We bought significantly. We didn't have any Algorand in 2022. We sold in, obviously, going into early 2022, sort of 2021, and ultimately got back in literally start of the year when we called the bottom for Bitcoin and a number of other things, as we suspect that we are now in a bull market. We cover this every day on our daily market updates. So I will dive into the price, but I think Algorand is suffering from a number of things right now. We're going to get into them in a second. I just want to share this cryptic message from the Algorand Foundation. Go back to the start for a cryptic clue. A unique trio awaits, hidden in plain sight. Unearth this triad for clue number 2. Then we can share some long-awaited news. I wonder what it will be. What do I think the main issue with Algorand is right now? Well, I think it's lack of interest. I think it's lack of interest from a development side of things. This is Algorand's, and this is rather sad, because this is very opposite to an internal to Algorand in terms of DeFi generally. Most DeFi has been growing. We'll show you this in just a second. Whereas obviously with Algorand's, was it AlgoFi? They decided to stop operating. Algorand still have them on their website. Yeah. Folk Finance are actually offering some amazing APIs on Algorand, by the way, in terms of what you could farm. But I think there's just a real lack of interest, lack of community, lack of... Again, bums on seats is a real thing, and Algorand isn't the busiest restaurant in town. And I really don't want people to think I'm throwing shade on Algorand. We think Algorand's great. You know, we've interviewed John Wood, for example, a couple of times. We've spoken with lots of people building on top of Algorand. I just think there's a lack of, again, developers in comparison with other blockchains, a lack of community in comparison with other blockchains, a lack of bums on seats. And I think that this really changes once you have interoperability, and actually you can gain access to all those bums on seats through an interoperability protocol or whatever it is, and actually then choose to use whatever blockchain you want to use. And why would you choose to do things on Ethereum when you can do them on Algorand, but still gain access to the whole of what Ethereum essentially has to offer in terms of an ecosystem? You know, this is the game changer for Algorand is going to be interoperability. So we'll see what the clue is. Again, I do think Algorand's a great project. I just think it's suffering from a lack of people, really. But this will change. I think there's questions in regards to maybe the amount of Algorand that the foundation hold. I think they brought 750 million Algorand online. Questions about decentralization, stuff like that get erased. You know, it's a great consensus mechanism under certain circumstances that Algorand has. Pure proof of stake is brilliant. You know, Algorand comes from algorithmic and randomness. They use randomness for security. It's very hard to attack something that's random. Let's move on to a little bit of price action. So I just want to wrap the kind of fundamental analysis on Algorand, if you can call it that, up. It's an amazing layer one. We think, it's suffering from a lack of bums on seats. However, I do think this changes eventually. And I think one big change is going to be interoperability, which we're moving ever closer towards. We did a video on CCIP yesterday, which could become the standard for interoperability. I don't think we need to actually physically move one token from, let's say, Algorand to Ethereum. I think we can do that through messaging in a similar way to actually how we do banking, or rather ironically. Let's talk about the price action. So this is very, very clearly still a downtrend. We're seeing absolutely no volume come in. I'm going to offend people with this because I know just how many sort of TA guys you get out there that are maybe calling like a falling wedge or this sort of stuff. You know, you are buying Algorand at a cheap price. You got a little bit of what you could say was support here. There's no real volume coming in. This is absolutely still a downtrending chart, whichever way you want to look at it. And could this be a base? Yeah, it could. This could absolutely be the final low. But can you say that with any kind of certainty other than guessing? No, I don't think you can. Right? For me personally, we want to see what Bitcoin's done. If you want to learn about stage of a market, guys, please do feel free to join the Patreon. We've found a way for everybody to very clearly identify and become a better investor through very simple methods. You know, we want to see a base form. We want to see resistance taken. This has gone from sort of declining to basing to now breakout. Ethereum, very similar story. Even things like Polkadot, you can see more of a clear base, more strength being shown, whereas Algorand actually is very much largely lagging the vast majority and is going on to put significant new lows in. They got hit particularly hard by the SEC. They literally mentioned them in every single lawsuit. We know that the SEC have recently lost their opinion that XRP is a security. A judge ruled that it's not. And actually, you've seen, even for the likes of Solana chart actually looks good, by the way. I hate to say it. I'm not a fan fundamentally of the blockchain. And this is, again, going back to Silvio's point. Right now, prices are largely not moved on how good or bad the actual underlying blockchain is necessarily. We've done a basket of other things. So Solana still looks good. You can see the strength. You know, if you compared these, Algorand showing literally the least amount of strength across pretty much the board. We will be buying more Algorand at some point. We're just going to go with other coins that have more strength. But it's going to be when it starts to show us a reason to start buying it again, heavily. And that's my honest take on it, guys. I don't want to offend anyone. Yes, I can understand, you might get lucky and catch the bottom. Potentially we have already done it. But we'll wait for a bit more strength to kind of show up before we start loading up on some more Algorand, because I do think it's going to be a serious player. The entire world is going to be ran on blockchain. Some of the public blockchains and layer ones that we have today are going to be a part of facilitating that. And I think Algorand stands a very good chance of being exactly that. A quick word on, I do remember, because I've been in this space for a long time, that actually Algorand is historically pretty good. Let's get rid of this volume now. We don't really need it. If you look at Algorand here, it was still descending when many other cryptos had continued to bottom. Okay? So actually it's a common trait for Algorand to do exactly this and take for that what it is. And I remember, because Algorand was a coin that I was interested in, it kind of took a lot longer to start catching up with the rest of the market, but this is a common trait for Algorand to sell off when actually the rest of the market kind of bottoms. We want to sort of start to see some sort of a base form for Algorand, support resistance being taken before we perhaps decide to load up on it. But all that being said, and me saying it's my biggest loser doesn't mean I'm throwing necessarily shade on it. I'm just being 100% honest. Again, we've been very, very right on the crypto space, very, very right on the traditional markets. Algorand's just one of those coins that I think I prematurely bought, but we still bought it up. I think in a year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 years time, it's going to be an amazing entry. It's just that we broke a few of our own rules by actually prematurely getting into it, which is rather frustrating. But that's what happens when you ignore rules that you've already set for yourself. But yeah, Algorand is a great project. I do think eventually it will do well. I think interoperability is going to be one of the turning points for Algorand, because then you'll be able to choose what blockchain you want to use, and Algorand becomes a very obvious choice all of a sudden. They've got great institutional partnerships. A real fan of John Wood. I think he's great for the Algorand community. And let me know your thoughts. Do you disagree with anything that I've said? Do you think it's unfair that I've said Algorand in regards to other blockchains is suffering from a lack of interest? Let me know why. Perhaps show me some evidence for why you think I'm wrong on that. On that note, I'm going to love and leave you. If you enjoyed the content, like us, appreciate us, comment, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. See you in the next.